Hi, I'm Ruben, and John over at Toplace asked me to do a video showing how to do a tape attachment, and it's just that, no styling, no coloring, nor cutting. I originally explained this in a Toplace forum post, but it only had a few photos, so I have a link to that Toplace post in the description here on YouTube. Hopefully this video explains it better. Note that the hair is not one solid color, so if you're coloring your hair or putting in some sort of dye, it's good to kind of streak it and not make it all one color. And here's the end result of the attachment. I have a tan line up front because the prior attachment was a little bit more forward and I was in the sun, so that's what that whiteness is there. There are the Toplace specs for the piece I'm about to attach, and there it is with the blonde fronts. Which help out a lot because it means there are no knots, and with the people that order it like this will color the front and sometimes their own hair to get a good match. And look, there are no knots there on the bottom. So taping the piece, I find tape works better than glue. I used to use glue. And now I'm using these contours, and I'm listing all the contour tapes I use here. They're easier to work with than roll tape, and to get the perfect front, you do need 3mm, and it needs to be a contour. As a matter of fact, that's the only way they sell it. So the problem with glue is getting that glue to line up perfectly with the edge of the lace. All the time, there's always extra glue, and even if you try to rub it off, it comes back somehow. And I always see not so great attachments with that front hair attached or stuck to the forehead. It's a kind of a giveaway. It looks really bad. So what I do is I prep some of the tapes first. I use 2 3mm up front, and the heavier tape behind for reinforcement is the Walker no shine tape. Having that combination of 3mm and no shine tape behind it for reinforcement makes for a really good hairline. I'm prepping one of the side pieces there. It all depends on how you're going to attach the sides and the back. But for the front, I cut these little handles. Okay, and that's the excess paper. That's the printed label side that I'm cutting off, and the other side we'll talk about is the backing, the split backing, which is the white side. Okay, so I don't show cutting all 4 of them. I just cut 1 and 1 to give the little handles. The little handles help out a lot. So I'm going to attach tape to the front and of the hairpiece. I have a curvy head, so this piece here has a dart or a little triangle cut out in front. Sometimes I put 2, a little bit more on the sides by the temples. Again, my head's pretty curvy. The Toplace pieces come with a really good curve, depending on your template, but I like to add a little extra. It kind of grips my head better. So what I'm doing here is I'm peeling the reinforcement tape, which is, again, a CC contour, Walker no shine, and I'm peeling the white part, okay, the split back, and I'm going to line it up about a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch behind the hairline. And because I have a dart, what I do is I kind of use the tape to connect the 2 sides. Most of you guys are going to order a piece, or you're using a template that is already a certain shape of the front, a certain contour, whether it be AA or CC or whatever the case may be. And you can just use those tapes right up front, the 3mm right up front. For the back reinforcement, I use the same size or the same shape as my front. Now I'm tacking down right by those handles a little bit more firm because that's where I'm going to lift it up from. You use your thumb and your finger for support, and that thumbnail kind of holds down the tape so it sticks to the piece, and then you kind of gently peel it over the backing, the printed label backing. Okay? Now throughout this attachment, I overlap a lot tape, especially if it's behind the hairline. You don't want to overlap tape at the hairline itself, but behind the hairline or all over the rest of the piece on the back and sides, it's okay to overlap. So there I prep my tape, and again, there's a little bit of an overlap. I want this to be about a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch. I think if you have a lower density, you might want to have it further back, and higher densities closer to the front is good. The good part about this, okay, same technique again, is that the 3mm only touches a very thin strip of the piece up front. And so when cleaning and removing the piece, it's a lot less work, it's a lot less scrubbing, and it's easier on the piece. Okay, so now because my front is kind of cut with a dart, I notice that, hey, I need to tailor this contour a little bit. I see a little bit of that edge hanging off. Okay, so now I'm going to prep it the same way again. I'm going to line it up again, but this has to go to the front. It needs to be as perfect as possible. Um, and as I'm lining up again, I notice that, you know what, there's also a little bit here that might hang over as well. So let me just give that a little clip. Okay, that pair of scissors I use are my gummy scissors for cutting tape, and I have a sharper pair of scissors I use for cutting hair and cutting the lace. Okay, so I get that lined up right to the edge. The piece already has a nice curve in it from the first pieces of tape, and then I tack that down, paying attention to where the handles are, giving that a little bit of an extra push, because that's going to need to be solid when I lift the printed label or the backing. Okay, notice here that, oh, there's a little bit of lace. It's probably not even a whole honeycomb's worth of lace. It's just probably just a few strands that are sticking out. I figured let me clean them up and give them a little cut. So that's what's going on there. Okay, now this tape is a little bit less forgiving. You need to be really careful. So it's good to work very carefully, again, using the thumbnail to kind of hold down to make sure it kind of sticks. And you want to peel it towards the front very slowly, because it has a tendency to not want to stick to anything except the backing for some reason. So, all right, so now I'm going to line up this side. And this side doesn't need any trimming at all. It just happens to work. If you want to put one piece across the very front right at 12 o'clock, especially for you guys that are going to have the fronts that are going to match the contour of the tape, do it that way. I'm going on the side. The most important thing is that you have 3mm up front, and first you put down the stronger tape. That's going to be the reinforcement, and that combination is really excellent. Okay. Alrighty, so I'm doing a tack down there, and what I'm going to do, I'm just looking to see if there's any lace overhanging, and there is, so I'll cut that off. You don't want the tape to be in front, otherwise you'll have the same problem you have with glue. So sometimes if the piece gets a little, it's kind of tattered towards the end of its life, I find myself cutting that tape a little bit more to make the shape match so that it lines up. But it's so worth it to go through this little bit of extra work. I find it gets a really good hairline. All right, that piece on the back is holding the back dart. I filmed this a year ago, almost a year ago. I don't cut a back dart anymore. It's not necessary. And there was no reason to even put a piece of tape on it to begin with. So just ignore that. I'm not going to even include that in the attachment, which is coming up soon. This here is to keep the whole front of the piece from sticking to your forehead when you're placing it and kind of getting it adjusted. So I'm taking half of the backings and kind of shingling them or laying them. So you want a good 3 inches in the front. You don't want it to be smaller than that, because then it's going to be hard to remove the backings. And here's the attachment. Okay, so what I do is, if you want to spritz water on your forehead where the piece is going to meet it, feel free so that it doesn't stick. I lay it on gently enough, and what I'm doing here is I'm going to line the piece up. I want the back to be not perfect, but I want the back to be good, and the sides as well. So what I'm doing is with the mirror and with 2 mirrors, I'm going to line up the back so that it's fine. Now, the front's already kind of stuck, but it's not going to be permanent. So as I'm angling this or moving this around or shifting it left and right, the piece is not going to lay flat on my head unless I got really super lucky when I plopped it on, which hardly ever happens. Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure that it's lined up. I see a little bit of a bald spot. I think I want to move my piece over a little bit. And once I have it in the right spot, I'm going to anchor it. Okay, I'm saying that's where I want it to be. It's far enough back. And I'm going to anchor it with the other hand, and I'm going to lift up on the front. It's not stuck too much, and then pull forward so that it's laying nice and flat. Okay, so even now I'll give it a second look just to make sure everything is fine, and then I'll press on that tape in the front to give it a better to make it attach for real now. I'm not going to lift it up anymore and move it around. Okay, so I flip it forward, and that was the hard part. This is the easy part. Basically, this part is just taking the contours that I've cut or that I'm going to use to just apply it to the sides. I could use a roll tape here, although I don't care for roll tape. It bunches up and it's a lot harder to work with. Contours are a little bit more expensive, but they're just so easy. And obviously, there's no 3 mil in the back. These are all the Walker no shines. They're bigger to work with. And I'll explain that technique on the next piece of tape. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm attaching now the. I want the printed label to be peeled off. I want the tape stuck to the white backing, the white split backing. Okay, and I'm going to just put that on the back spot there. Now I'm turning around, I'm moving around. I don't usually attach this way, but I'm nervous. I have a stranger doing the filming, so I'm trying to try to make things, I guess, more visible for the camera. Um, and then using those little handles, I remove the white backing. Okay, so here's how to do that a little bit better, a little more clear. You give a little twist. You're on the white side, and you want to just kind of peel and then do a small little cut there. Sorry for the masking. All right, so then you peel the back off. Okay, the printed label part, and now I'm going to stick this on the other side. And where these two tapes meet, there's going to be overlap. But like I said before, it's not really a big deal. It's totally fine if they overlap. Okay, and then I tack that down. All right, so I'm going to do the same procedure with the other tapes that are going to go along the perimeter. And I just want to mention that the glue, when you're using glue, glue starts out gummy, and then you try to let it dry, and it gets a little harder, and then it gets gummy again after a couple of days as it breaks down. And during the first gummy phase, when you're actually doing the attachment, the lace kind of melts into the gummy glue, making the lace disappear right from the beginning. With 3 mil up front, that absorption into the lace can take anywhere from a half an hour to 3 to 5 hours. It depends on how you react with the tape and what the weather is. So I usually attach at a time where I'm not going into a public for a couple hours later, or maybe I'll do it at night, or maybe I won't show hairline, or maybe I'll attach on a Sunday. But when you first attach with tape, and especially if you have a thinner hairline or a staggered hairline, you're going to notice that tape up front, and you're going to notice it for an hour or two. So it's definitely worth it, because after that first period of when the piece finally settles in, for the next couple of days, it's going to be a premium hairline. It's going to look really good. It's definitely worth it. So you might want to be conscious of when you actually do the attachment. So here what I'm doing is I'm just getting rid of those shingle backings. You want to try to grab them from the center of the piece, not from the hairline. And they will, you don't attach them really hard. You just kind of lay them on. So getting them off isn't too bad, but you want to be careful there, because if you screw up that front tape. All right, so I'm grabbing the piece where it's going to attach, and I'm kind of stretching it just a little bit to where the hairline is, or my real hair is, rather. And now I'm just going to make sure, does it look like I'm going to line up okay? Does it look okay? All right, you could walk it back slowly. You could flop it down like I did. And because I measured it from the beginning, it's going to fall pretty nice, and I just kind of tack it down, and that's it. So, thank you for watching, and good luck.